We were just doing domain and range for the graph. Oh man, I forgot batteries. I knew I forgot something last night. Yeah.
Oh man.
I have to remember them tomorrow. I literally took the whole thing home too. But I didn't open my backpack, so. Okay. Determine whether the function is even, odd, or neither. Try to answer without writing anything except the answer.
Okay. Oh, like don't like. Oh, I don't like that.
So it kind of wants you to just look at it and be able to tell, but that's not always the most feasible thing. So we're just going to do, going back up to look at it, the thing. When we're looking at even or odd, we're basically plugging in negative x anywhere we see x, and if the whole function comes out to be basically the same as what it started as, then it's even. If it's like opposite of what it was, it's odd. So I'm going to do it with writing stuff down, even though it says don't do that, because it's easier for you to see it that way. So negative x plus negative x squared. Okay, and I'm doing the parentheses because when you're plugging in negative, it's replacing x originally, so we're actually putting in negative x, so I want to make sure with the different powers that could be on it that we can see what it is. So this is going to end up giving me negative x plus x squared, okay, because the negative is going to become positive. And so based on that, what do we have? Even, odd, or neither? Why?
Because it came out to be different.
Was the whole thing different?
No.
No. So these would both need to be negative or a negative completely pulled out front. So this is going to be neither.
Oh. Okay.
Can we do some more of this?
Huh?
Can we do some more of this?
Yeah. All right, this next one we should be able to just look at and know what's going to happen. This should be one that we don't really need to write anything down. See if you can tell me why.
Oh. It's even.
Why?
Because when you do the negative x for it's negative x squared, that just becomes x squared, and then negative 3 doesn't change anything. The minus 3 doesn't change.
Right. Yep. So that is, I mean, it's just pretty much if there's only one variable being raised to an even power, it's going to be even. If there's only one thing raised to an odd power, it's going to be odd. So if this was x cubed minus 3, it would end up being odd because of that. So 26. Y equals x plus x cubed. Now, sometimes the assumption is, because of what I just said, of where, oh, if it's an odd power and it's plus something, you're going to say it's odd. Don't just assume that if there's multiple variables in there. Okay, actually go through and check it. So if I plug in negative x plus negative x cubed, what do I get out?
Negative x plus negative x, well, minus x.
Okay, and so the way to look at this is to say I can take a negative out of the whole thing and it becomes x plus x cubed. So it's negative for the whole thing, which when you can take a whole negative out of everything, it's odd. Okay, so this is going to be odd. Um, 30. Y equals 1 over x squared minus 1. So if you put in negative x, so 1 over negative x squared minus 1, what does that give us?
1 over x squared minus 1.
Okay, so it did not change, so that means it's even. Does that make more sense? No.
Yeah.
Okay, the only other thing that I'm going to do, and I'm only going to demonstrate like 1 or 2 of these out of the like 6. Basically, problems 50 and 51 or give you 2 functions, and so they either tell you to like do f composed of g of x or g composed of f of 2 or something like that, and it gives you 6 things that you have to do for each of them. So I'm just going to do like 1 or 2 of those for number 52. Just because I don't really feel like I need to demonstrate a ton, but if we're confused, let me know and I'll do more. So 52 gives us f of x is equal to x plus 1 and g of x is equal to x minus 1. And then just so you see what all it's asking for, a is f of g of x, b is g of f of x, C is f of g of 0. D is g of f of 0. E is g of negative 2. And then f is f of x. So if I were going to do these, I would probably actually do them a little bit out of order because A and C are basically the same thing with the exception of you're plugging in 0 at the end. So when I do A, obviously I'm still having variables in there. There's nothing I'm solving for. So that's kind of the first step. The way that they typically want you to do something like C through E is they actually will tell you that you should do like f of g of x and then at the end plug in 0. I don't care if you plug in 0 and g of x initially and then go from there. So, which ones do y'all want me to do? Take your pick.
D, B, F.
Okay. We'll start with B. So B is g of f of x. Don't know who that is. Might be important, might not be. All right, so anywhere we see an x in g of x, we're putting the function of f of x. So it's going to be x plus 1 minus 1, which gives us what? Yep. So that leaves you with x. So then if we jump down and did d, that means that we've already got this here. So g of f of 0 then is going to be what? Zero.
Wait, what did you say?
G of f of 0. So I did g of f of x and I was left with x. So now I plug in 0 anywhere there's an x. So it's just 0.
Okay.
Usually they give you something that's a little more complicated than this. But it's fine.
Oh, because it would be 0 plus 1 minus 1.
Yeah. So if you were to do it the other way, a lot of times what people like to do is they would have actually done g of 0 first, which would have given them negative 1, and then they would have plugged negative 1 in for x in f of x, which when they're more complicated, that is the way I do it. These ones are pretty easy, so it doesn't really matter which way you do it. So let me do E so that I can show you what I'm talking about. So they do g of negative 2. So in g of x, I'm going to put negative 2 in for x. So it's going to be negative 2 minus 1, which is what?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. So now I have g of negative 3. So that's going to be negative 3 minus 1, which is negative 4. So the solution to that one would be negative 4. But if you had wanted to, you also could have done x minus 1 minus 1 and then plugged in negative 2 and you would have gotten the same answer. So it's really just preference. A lot of times when it gives me a number, I go ahead and plug it in, but these ones are easy enough. It doesn't
Why
matter.
couldn't you have stopped at -3 on D?
Because this is only this part. That's all I've solved right here. So then I do, to get this whole thing, I have to do this.
I see.
So then with f of x, I just plug in x plus 1 for x in f of x. So x plus 1 plus 1, which is x plus 2. So when you do problem 51, if you want to do like A, then C, then B, then D, so that way they kind of flow together, that's fine. If you want to do them in order and just like look back to it, that's, you know, also fine. I just like things that go together to be the same. So any questions about any of that? Okay. Then your problems are 1 through 29, every other odd, and then 51.